In the ancient Montfort mansion, a forgotten relic remained locked away in one of the forbidden rooms, an old mirror framed in gold tarnished by time, known as the Mirror of the Abyss. The legend claimed that the mirror reflected not only reality, but also what lay beyond it, dark and distorted worlds inhabited by creatures that should not exist. Julia, a young historian, was invited to catalog the mansion's artifacts after the death of the last Montfort heir. Fascinated by the stories surrounding the family, she became particularly curious about the mirror. The mansion staff avoided discussing it, but they whispered about it when they thought they weren't being heard, mentioning inexplicable disappearances and screams in the night. Driven by an irresistible curiosity, on a silent night, Julia decided to investigate. With a key she found in one of the old rooms, she unlocked the door to the forbidden chamber. The atmosphere was suffocating, with furniture covered in sheets and a thick layer of dust in the air. In the corner of the room, shrouded in shadow, stood the mirror. As she approached, Julia noticed that the glass seemed strange, as if it were rippling slightly, like water. Cautiously, she lifted the sheet covering it, and for a moment, only her own reflection stared back at her. But soon something changed. The reflection began to distort. Her features elongated, her eyes turned black as night, and a shadow appeared in the background, like a hooded figure. Julia recoiled, but her feet felt glued to the floor. The room around her began to tremble slightly, and the image in the mirror became increasingly vivid. She saw a dark version of herself, trapped in a place that resembled an endless corridor, illuminated by a weak and oppressive light. Suddenly, the hooded figure in the reflection moved. It was behind Julia in the mirror, but when she turned around, there was nothing there. Her heart raced, and she began to feel an invisible force pulling her toward the mirror, as if an unseen hand were grasping her soul. She struggled, tried to pull away, but the attraction was too strong. The edges of the mirror seemed to stretch, as if the glass were transforming into a living portal. Desperate, Julia remembered an ancient protection ritual she had read in the Montfort diaries. In haste, she recited the words, and the force of the mirror began to wane. However, just when she thought she was safe, the hooded figure in the reflection turned to her. In a chilling whisper that seemed to come from within her mind, it said, "You cannot escape the abyss." With one last effort, Julia threw a sheet over the mirror and the pull ceased. Breathless, she fell to the floor. The room returned to silence, but the air was still thick, laden with a malignant energy.